US lawmakers are demanding answers from AI companies after rogue systems breached security tests, raising national security alarms. So what are the risks of unregulated AI systems? Also coming up today, thousands of lawsuits against tech giants could expose social media's role in the growing mental health crisis among many young people. For more, let's head to the Sunshine Coast. We're joined by Dr. Karen Sutherland from the University of the Sunshine Coast. Great to see you as always. Why are lawmakers targeting OpenAI and Anthropic right now?
I think it's because they've been quite transparent about these issues that they've been having. So they're developing autonomous agents, and they were trying to do the right thing, put them in sandboxes and things like that. But what OpenAI found, that the one they were working on, it broke out of that and went onto the internet to try and solve one of the tests. And then also Anthropic, they've had issues before, but they weren't going to release a model because they found that it was identifying security breaches and vulnerabilities, and so it didn't want to let it out to the public. However, they did an assessment on, it was like 141,000 different tests that they've been employing on this new technology, and they found 3 breaches similar to that of OpenAI's, where the agents have broken out and gone onto the internet and done their own thing. So it's quite worrying. And what else is going on? There are many other AI platforms. So these are just the 2 who've actually mentioned it. So that's why they're being brought before the US government to try and explain what's going on.
Yes, here's a challenge. You've got a situation now where on one hand, the government is trying to make sure that AI doesn't do a Wuhan lab and infect the world, so to speak. Then on the other hand, you've got all these companies that have spent billions of dollars promising investors that artificial intelligence will soon be able to think like humans, so therefore companies won't need as many humans. Surely that means that these breaches become inevitable and there'll be more of them as the testing continues.
Oh, 100%. I think what I'm finding is the technology in terms of autonomous agents, from all the reports, they're breaching things because they're going off and doing their own thing, which is quite concerning. And this year has really been the year of the autonomous agents. They've been in development for a while, but this is where they really hit their strides. And I'm not sure if you remember earlier in the year when OpenClaw was released, and it was, I think from Meta, it was one of their security experts posted that Claude actually deleted all of her emails without her consent because it was trying to free up room. So it's the unpredictability of this technology that I think has everyone a bit concerned.
How effective are the current AI safety measures? Because I would imagine right now it's very much up to the companies that are running these AI projects to self-report, self-manage. So how effective is that?
We only know what we're told. So
yeah, of course.
We don't really know what else is going on. And Anthropic has always said that it's going to be transparent and things like that. And OpenAI reported that when they really didn't have to. There's no legislation to say that they had to actually share that information with anyone. Yeah, there's no real law around the transparency and disclosure of what's going on at this stage. But yeah, it's a bit worrying when you hear these reports about AI going rogue and going off and doing its own thing. But the risk is allowing, particularly with agents and things like that, where it's becoming more autonomous. The risk is when you start to allow it to have access to your emails and your files. And while it's amazing, and yeah, it gets to know you and it can be much more relevant and save you time, it also means you're giving your sensitive information to AI, which can be unpredictable. So yeah, so there's that sort of weighing up. Is it worth it?
It's a good question. Obviously, there are questions about when we give governments our details. We just had the census and you're filling it out thinking, who's actually going to get this information that I'm willingly giving away, otherwise I'll face a fine. And I think all of our experience has been whenever we hand over details, I'm sure my phone number and my email, my passport and my license number are out there if Russian hackers want it, because we keep seeing these breaches from companies that aren't using AI, let alone the ones that, as you say, are. Governments are really scrambling to try and find a way to deal with this. You've got South Australia, the Premier coming back from his trip to Silicon Valley announcing a Royal Commission into AI. The new Victorian Premier Ben Carroll revealing his new front bench is going to have a Minister for AI as well. I just wonder how much local governments in Australia think that they can manage control. This is a country that loves control. We brought in seatbelts, we loved a lockdown. And obviously there's this desire, as people often say, Australia, we're not descendants of convicts, we're the descendants of the jailers, and that's our mentality. And AI now plays into that because it's a huge threat. But how can governments locally deal with something which is happening so broadly around the world?
That's a very good question. And how will they even know what's going on? Will it come down to when you're registering a business that is developing AI, that you need to go through a whole sort of range of measures? Because there are industry standards and international standards and things like that. But the actual legal side of it, I think, still needs to actually catch up with the technology.
Yeah, very much. All right, let's move on. Thousands of lawsuits against Meta and other tech firms could expose their role in youth mental health crises. So what will the trials reveal about social media's impact on kids? We're speaking with Dr. Karen Sutherland from the University of the Sunshine Coast. How significant is this court ruling?
If they're found to be guilty, it's a lot of money that they're going to have to pay back. The thing is, they're not looking at the content, they're looking at the design of these platforms. How has the design of these platforms impacted people's, and particularly young people's, mental health, in terms of them being addicted to the platforms and not being able to put their phones down, just the way that they're set up, how the algorithms show content, all those sorts of things. They're looking into the design of it. So while they may be fined, will they then be forced to redesign the platforms with younger people in mind? Or, as we're seeing in a range of countries now, younger people are just banned from the platforms. And as we've discussed how successful that is, we still don't know. But yeah, there's a whole lot of things going on in this space right now.
It comes down to that ever-arching question about if there's a crack in the road and I fall in it, who's responsible? Me for not seeing the crack, the council for not fixing the crack, the person for creating the crack, right? And we're in that perspective because a lot of these companies will say the people who are struggling with mental health were doing so with other things in their life, not just because they're consuming Meta platforms and content. So how much is a responsibility of the platform and how much is a pre-existing condition that we're now copping the blame for? What do you think of that argument?
Yeah, I think the platforms are going to be fighting that. What impact really have they had? Also, what about parental controls? Are parents supervising kids' use of social media and having phones and things like that? And where does the legislation stop and the impact of the platform stop, and really individual use and decisions take up from that? It's going to be a long case, I think, in the courts.
What risks do the lawsuits pose for tech firms? Is it a case of they've got a lot of money, people want to get money out of them and give them a bit of a shakedown, and obviously there are a lot of regulators who've been chasing these companies for quite some time? Is there anything we've seen from Meta, for example, where it said, okay, we admit that things are a bit tough, we'll make some changes? Because they have in the past, particularly when it came to politics. They changed the algorithm after a lot of investigation post Donald Trump being elected the first time around, you recall?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I've seen other commentators who've actually worked at Meta who've said experts in mental health who have emailed Meta, the executives, to say, look, there is something really wrong here, and they've just ignored it, allegedly. So it's going to be interesting to see what's actually gone on and the evidence around it. But yeah, maybe all the platforms will be forced to change what they're doing in some way. But how, we will just have to wait and see. And also, will it be just for younger people using the platform, or will it be for everyone?
Yeah, all right, we'll leave it there for now. Always appreciate your time, your insights, Dr. Karen Sutherland. Thank you.